Hello, good Saturday morning, South Mississippi. Meteorologist Taylor Graham here at our digital desk. Just wanted to give everyone an update on what's going on in the tropics. We continue to watch what is Tropical Depression 4 that is currently moving over Cuba right now. Just a few moments ago, we got the latest update in from the National Hurricane Center, their latest 10 o'clock update. So we'll dive into that, what else is going on in the tropics, and maybe what we can expect over the next couple of days here locally. It's going to be really hot and humid, but you know what? I'll take that, having to deal over a tropical system any day. But I know a lot of people have family and friends that live on other parts of the Gulf Coast, and we do expect Tropical Depression 4 to move into the Gulf of Mexico later today. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what Tropical Depression 4 is doing right now. Now, as of 10 o'clock, it's a little bit more organized than what it was earlier this morning. Earlier, we had winds of 30 miles per hour. We bumped up those winds to about 35 miles per hour, getting a little more organized, but that's not saying a whole lot. Still seeing showers and thunderstorms well away from the center of circulation at this time. Now, it is moving at a pretty good pace to the west and northwest at about 15 miles per hour. It won't be much longer until it moves into the Gulf of Mexico, and once it does so, that's when we expect it to strengthen a good bit. This probably comes as no surprise, but the Gulf of Mexico is extremely warm. Looking at sea surface temperatures right now, yeah, they're in the mid to even upper 80s along the western coast of Florida. So no shortage of heat in the Gulf of Mexico for these tropical systems to work with. And right now, of course, with it being over Cuba, it's interacting with some of that land. Once it moves back over water, that's when we expect it to become a little bit more organized. So I wouldn't be surprised if either overnight tonight or by Sunday morning, we don't have Tropical Depression 4 anymore. We'll likely have Tropical Storm Debbie. Now, at this point, we are looking at quite a few tropical storm warnings and watches in effect for the west coast of Florida, the western peninsula mainly, but a hurricane watch actually has been issued for the Big Bend region, or that coastal area along the Big Bend of Florida. Now, while the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center doesn't have the system becoming a hurricane, it's really not out of the question. It may be getting very close to hurricane strength before making landfall along the Big Bend region of Florida by early Monday morning. Even the Keys could be feeling some tropical storm force winds very late tonight and into Sunday morning, but really eyeing that Big Bend region where more of the significant impacts in terms of storm surge and wind are going to be by early Monday morning. So taking a look here at the latest forecast track, we just got this in at 10 o'clock. Later tonight, it may still remain a tropical depression, but it has the opportunity of becoming Tropical Storm Debbie. That's very likely going to be the case by tomorrow morning, and then it will quickly strengthen into a strong tropical storm by Monday morning, it looks like, before making landfall. But with winds near 70 miles per hour, that is getting close to hurricane strength. It wouldn't be a total shock to me if it did get up to hurricane strength just before making landfall. So over the next 24 to 48 hours, it will be moving at a pretty steady pace. Then some changes as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this upcoming week. This may look a little confusing here, but this system is really going to be slowing down. It may be stalling out somewhere near the coast of Georgia, South Carolina, maybe even into North Carolina. And it really all depends on how the steering currents in the upper levels are going to be directing this system. But depending on if it stays over land or if it's able to go back over water, will determine if it's going to be able to strengthen a little bit more. At this point, the National Hurricane Center has it re-strengthening a little bit more by Wednesday and Thursday. That's more so if it does move back over water. If not, then it may begin to fizzle out a little bit more. So beyond Tuesday, the forecast is really tricky. Now, hopefully from this map, you can tell that South Mississippi not in the cone of uncertainty. And to be honest, we are really not going to be feeling any impacts out of the system. Thank goodness. I know it does not feel very nice outside, but in my opinion, much rather be dealing with the high heat and humidity rather than a potential tropical system moving into South Mississippi. So good news for us. Impacts are looking pretty much minimal at this point, but because we are going to be on the west side of this system, we are going to stay very hot and also pretty dry over the next few days. So like I said, over the next 24 to 48 hours, this system will be moving at a pretty good pace. What's happening is that we have a trough or a dip in the jet stream digging through the eastern half of the country. That's eroding away that ridge of high pressure over the Atlantic. And so with that weakness, that's allowing the system to move farther to the north into the Gulf of Mexico. What's going to happen though is that ridge starts to re-strengthen a little bit more. That trough moves farther to the north, and so these steering currents or these upper level winds are going to be getting much weaker. So by the time it gets past landfall in Florida and it tries to move up to Georgia and the Carolinas, the steering currents are going to be so weak that it kind of comes to a crawl at that point. Now, that's not good news, especially in terms of flooding rainfall, especially for parts of Georgia and the Carolinas, depending on the track. And if it slows down, of course, that's going to be dumping a lot of rain within a short amount of time, relatively short amount of time. So I wouldn't be shocked if parts of Georgia and the Carolinas have to deal with some significant flooding out of the system, in addition to gusty winds and of course maybe even some storm surge if it's able to re-strengthen a little bit more. But regardless of how much it strengthens or not, I think rain is going to be one of the biggest issues for parts of Georgia and the Carolinas by the middle of next week. And of course rain also going to be an issue for parts of Florida. So Florida, the coast of Georgia, Carolinas, definitely going to be watching the system very closely over the next few days. Thankfully, really does not look like a South Mississippi threat. Of course, we will keep you updated if anything weird happens, if anything changes, but at this time really looks like this is going to be more of a Florida, Georgia, Carolinas issue. Now, the system should be moving into the Gulf of Mexico later today. And of course, next name on the list is Debbie, so I wouldn't be surprised within the next 12 hours or so that we do have our next tropical storm of the season. Knock on wood, though, it really looks like this is going to stay far enough to our east that we're not going to see many impacts. And because we're going to be well to the west of the system, we'll see some of that drier air, or drier conditions, I should say. Still going to be very humid, but in terms of rainfall, really not expecting much as we get into Sunday and Monday. So our in-house model, our latest run and futurecast, does show this system getting its act together a little bit more before making landfall by early Monday morning. This could be an overnight event for parts of the Big Bend region of Florida, and then slowly moving up into Georgia and South Carolina by Tuesday, and that may even stick around into Wednesday. And of course, with all that heavy rainfall, I am concerned with some of the flooding up along the East Coast and even along the west coast of Florida. Many spots will be picking up about 6 to 8 inches of rain. That goes for the Tampa Bay area, Sarasota, even southwest Florida near Naples, Fort Myers. They could be seeing some very heavy rainfall as well. But up near Savannah and Charleston, Georgia, Carolinas, I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 4 to 5 days they were able to pick up 8 to 10 inches of rain. And some forecast models even hint that that could be on the low end. Looking for us, though, in South Mississippi, today, Saturday, that's going to be our best chance of seeing some showers and storms. And even then, they're going to be much more hit or miss. Starting tomorrow and especially into Monday and Tuesday, things are looking drier in terms of rainfall. Not humidity. I want to make that distinction. It's still going to be very humid. But in terms of rainfall over the next few days, we are not expecting a ton here in South Mississippi. Elsewhere in the tropics, no other areas that the National Hurricane Center is highlighting at this time. However, back at the studio, the WLOX First Alert Weather Team continues to watch a few other tropical waves way out there in the Atlantic. No chance of development given by the National Hurricane Center, but we are getting deeper into August, and typically we do see more of these tropical waves moving over the Atlantic. So we're not going to write these off there where I've got the arrows. Always bears watching, especially for this time of the year, and especially with conditions favorable in general for a lot of tropical activity. If we've been forecasting an above active season, and chances are as we get into August and September, we're going to be seeing more tropical activity. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll see it here in South Mississippi, but a heads up, we are anticipating an active season. So a long ways to go before the end of hurricane season. Hopefully we are not going to have to deal with any, but again, always best to be on guard, at least for the time being. Tropical Depression 4 does not really look like much of a concern for us, but if you have family and friends on the west coast of Florida, maybe even the coast of Georgia and the Carolinas, just a heads up that things could be getting pretty messy over the next 2 to 3 days for those parts of the country. Again, for us, really doesn't look like it's going to be too much of an issue. Of course, if anything weird happens, if anything changes, we will let you know. But at least for the time being, it just looks incredibly hot and humid over the next 6 to 7 days. In fact, temperatures by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday here probably going to be pushing 100 degrees. We're probably not going to see much rain after today, just a few spotty showers. So the heat and humidity definitely on here. At least we are not having to deal with Tropical Depression 4 at this time. So wrapping it up here, it's 10:23 and we'll have more updates later on in the day. I will be back here in the afternoon and evening to give you any more updates at WLOX on air and online. So for the time being, I'm going to sign off and we'll have more updates on our forecast and Tropical Depression 4 later this weekend.